And we're live.
And we are live. This is true. It says it's live on the Facebook page from what I can tell. All right, well, here we go. See how this works out, right? All right, everyone. Welcome to Real Management Talk with LJ and Jocelyn. So I'm Jocelyn.
And I'm LJ.
And this is our podcast. Here you get us raw, live, and this week in person. We're doing a live recording and streaming live to hopefully our Facebook page. That is, if I hit all the tech right. So,
I just shared something to my Facebook page.
all right, well, hopefully it's working, right?
It'll be okay.
You know, our podcast, folks, is unaltered, unedited, and what you get is what you get. Now, as you can tell, we've been playing with the filters again because we like playing with the filters on Zoom. What can we say? You know, so this is us. But we thought we'd try something new this week and put this into the Facebook stream on the actual page. So we'll see how this works out, guys. So, LJ, what are we talking about this week?
We're going to talk about these pretty wicked shades I got on right now. And we're also going to talk about, I think it's really the importance of leadership and setting a standard for excellence. It's got to be a standard of excellence, but it's got to be realistic. It's got to be based in culture. It's got to be really steeped in a culture of excellence.
Right? Trying to keep my thing from beeping. Sorry, guys, if you hear that. Stepped in a culture of excellence. So I know you and I were having kind of an interesting conversation a while back. In the not too distant past here. And oh, you're on TV now. There you go.
We're on TV now.
All right. So we were having this conversation in the not too distant past about how, you know, sometimes cultures or expectations within the workplace seem to be shifting again, not just the shifts that we've kind of seen from the pandemic on all sides, employers, employees, things like this, but some things that are happening with some of the younger generations, let's say. That's how I'm
and we really honestly cannot blame it on the younger generations now that I think about it, because it really is a problem of the time. Like, it's a zeitgeist issue that I don't think we place properly, right? It's that concept of, you go to IHOP, you get seated by your waiter, your hostess, the hostess seats you, the waiter comes, and you have an issue with something on the menu, right? So you're addressing it with the waiter, and the waiter doesn't give you the answer that you think they should have given you. So now you get upset, and instead of just addressing it with the waiter, now you want to talk to a manager, right? But it doesn't stop there. Now you want to talk to the owner of IHOP, not the general manager, not the district manager, not a regional manager. You just want to go straight to the top, and it's an issue of our times where there is this sort of there's this entitlement that has come with this new generation of technology that just gives you everything that you want instantly. You know, we have I was talking to my husband about it when we were in Jamaica. The service culture is I mean, you think about customer service and you think about the role that it plays in our lives. It is monumental. The service industry, it is monumental what we can get in just a matter of seconds, or instantaneously, or in just a matter of days. And it's only going to get better from here. You know, you're not going to have to wait long for anything. And it's trickled down. Remember, we were talking about this on our previous episode of just thinking about how this plays out in academia. You know, even at the university levels, we're seeing this as instructors, we're seeing the impact of that, you know, instant gratification. We're seeing that in the classroom because even our students are coming in now and they don't want to learn. They don't want to learn the process. They want to copy success. They want to copy a blueprint and they want it to work exactly as the copy, right? They want to download it and hit install and boom, they're ready to go. They don't want to go through the process. They don't want to learn. They don't want to seek understanding. You see that in every aspect of our lives at this point. And you were making a good point about this as it relates to the workforce. You especially see this in the shifts and the transitions, you know, in terms of workforce, because people, again, they're looking at positions and they're saying, oh, this is an internship. Oh, no, that's beneath me. It's insane. I had a student the other day, she's only worked maybe 2 months in her life. And she comes to me and she says, oh, well, I want to go and be hired as a project manager. And she knows the level of experience that project managers come with. If you're a certified project manager, you're walking in the door with at least 6 years experience normally of managing or being a part of a team where you're managing projects. And you can actually document your coordination, you can document some sort of role that you played. She wanted to come in and just go straight for the boss. And I honestly do not understand where that sense of entitlement blew up the way that it did. You know, it's so out of proportion now that it's really scary because it's hard to figure how we can correct that in a way that doesn't discriminate and you know, make certain things inaccessible and put back glass ceilings in places that we busted those glass ceilings. I mean, there's just so many things on the socioeconomic, social political side of this that, you know, we're like, well, hooray, you know, some things are, you know, becoming less impediments. You know, we have fewer barriers, I guess, to access, which is always, you know, something that we can celebrate. But now there's this other ugly side of it, where it's like, okay, well, how do we then respect time and grade? How do we then respect the process? How do we respect the learning that comes with being really, really good at your job? You know, you're really good at it, not because you studied something for a little bit and moved on from it. You're really good because you've sat, you tinkered with this, you've made mistakes, you've got, you know, lessons learned over years, not just hours.
Right. Well, and I think, you know, to your point, maybe on like, where did it come from? You know, the thought that has occurred to me is some of where it came from, and it's not really necessarily to blame generations, either the generation or the couple of generations that seem to have certain thoughts. But I think on the other side of it is, you do have a lot of baby boomers in particular, who, especially if they were later, what you would call later stage baby boomers, who then raised later stage Xers, who somehow kind of gave those Xers everything, who then turned around and raised the Ys, or what we call the millennials, who in some respects grew up just feeling entitled. Not all of them. So I'm not like trying to throw an entire generation in the bus, but I think that it's been this systemic thing for about 50 years, if not 60 years, of just slowly but surely. And I really think that what's happened is, especially in the last 2 years, especially with the pandemic and all the shifts that we're seeing, and in some respects, it's being in business, guys, is never easy. I mean, there are stories I can tell you. I have had a business for 21 years as of this year, There are definite stories, I can tell you. But having said that, in some respects, this is one of the easiest times in the world to actually just kind of go start a business. So you do have people who, especially in 2020 and even through parts of 2021, were thrown into the company that they worked for, that they were really happy with, or maybe they weren't totally happy with, but they were happy enough to get up in the morning and go in. That they went, wait a second, there's this pause. I suddenly either can't go to my job, or we've been put on hiatus, or maybe I'm working from home, sort of, kind of. It's, like everything's just in chaos and flux. And I've got time to sit down and think about what I want to do. And so they went and they did their own thing. There's a certain amount of folks, I believe, around the world that did that. And through time decided maybe that's not what they want. It's when we talk about the entrepreneur, right? They decided that they were entrepreneurial, but they wanted to be entrepreneurial in somebody else's company. They didn't want to have that piece of headache. And there's nothing wrong with that. And some people just went, I did that out of necessity so that my family could eat, we had heat, and we could keep the roof over our head. But now that things are, I'm going back, but I know what I want. And because I had this experience, I'm going to demand it, to use your example, that I talk to the head of IHOP. And I think that for a lot of us, I'm just going to say for me, that sometimes it's really hard when you're running a company. It's really hard to wrap our head around that when somebody's coming in the door. Because I think you and I were talking about a study or something that recently was saying how there's a certain amount of people out there who say that they want to feel passionate about what they're doing. Well, we want everybody to feel passionate. I want to feel passionate about what I'm doing. I mean, otherwise, it's like, why would I even want to get out of bed every day and try to, build the company and like that for myself, with my team, with, and this vision that I have, right, to help make all of our lives better. But having said that, on the other side of it, there's this whole thing about they want to love the people that they're working for. And as a business owner, I don't even know what to do with that.
That's tough. That's a lot of expectations.
What to do with that?
That's a lot of pressure. That's an extraordinary amount of pressure. Can you imagine? I mean, I'm sure that my husband doesn't feel that way for me every single day. I mean, that's just a lot of pressure. Like that is inextricably a lot of pressure to have to deal with in a workplace environment, where we're not supposed to be, friends. We're not supposed to be family per se. We're supposed to be working towards the same vision, same goals, to accomplish basically this economic independence and freedom for ourselves and for our families, for our communities. That is not easy work. It is actually inherently violent. It's inherently violent. It's akin to driving a car every day. Right. I'm just saying, when you get behind the wheel, it's basically like you're a person with a weapon, right? That vehicle that you're driving can kill you and can kill someone else. It's just an inherently violent process. The moment that you get road rage, all these things that happen to you that you really cannot necessarily control, that, just kind of, you're like, oh, wow, I really lost control for a minute. I was flipping people to birdie and cussing people out and being, racist and prejudicial behind the wheel. How did that happen to you? You can't explain it. It just comes, it feels like it comes out of nowhere. Well, guess what? You're going to have a lot of experiences like that on the job. That's part of it, because you're so passionate about working towards this aim, working towards this destiny. There's so much that goes into it. You're not going to like those people all the time. You're not going to really appreciate it it's just like I've been interviewing a lot of candidates lately. And one of the women that I interviewed, it was a fantastic interview. She said to me, and I'll never forget, she said, one thing that I miss about the work environments that I just left was that I had people who allowed for me to be myself
Mhm.
in my work, in my capacity at that job. I could do this work the way that I saw fit, in the way that I saw best, and my team would all just sort of defer to me and empower me to make those decisions and empower me to see those things through as part of a team. She said, I miss that in a work environment. That is what we talked about this before. We talked about agency and how a
Mhm.
lot of people don't feel like they have agency in their positions at their jobs. Now, is that something that's necessarily attributed to a toxic workplace? It's debatable. Is that something that might be on you as a person and the way that you show up every day at
Mhm.
work? See, that's the part of the conversation I don't think we get a chance to really think critically about and discuss, especially in public spaces, because it's just easier to sort of just, it's that cancel culture mentality of, okay, well, these people are bad, therefore I'm good, therefore it's the environment, therefore it's not me. And it's like, well, hold on. That's too simple. We all know that there's a lot more nuance involved in these types of matters. Can we have a real conversation about why you don't feel like you can show up the way that you have in your mind? It's just like when you look at a mirror, is the person that you see in your reflection, is that who you have in your head of yourself? You know, when you see a picture of yourself, do you see yourself that way? Or do you look at the picture and say, oh, who's this fat hag? Okay, I'm just saying, there's a lot of people I know that are like that. And I'm like, there's no way
I'm
you
sorry, but
think they think they look like Kim Kardashian or something. And I'm like, no, baby, this is what you look like. And they're like, oh, really? And I'm like, yeah, me, I got a big head. Okay. I have, big nose. Okay, those are my features. When I see a reflection of myself, I don't get surprised that I don't look like Halle Berry. I would love to look like Halle Berry, but I'm not Halle Berry. Okay, that's
right.
okay. But that's what I'm saying is we can't even get real sometimes about who we are and how we see ourselves in our own minds. So for you to be trying to go to a workplace, especially now with people that you're not going to
Mhm.
meet, you're not going to meet them in person, probably not with COVID. You're not going to meet these people in person. You're going to probably always sort of see them virtually, understanding that you're seeing them for a reason, which is to
Right.
produce some sort of outcome, result, service, product, something.
Right.
You're coming together for work purposes. It is okay for you to show up in that capacity there, and that the way you show up there not necessarily be how you show up at home or how you show up at church or how you show up at, you know, you don't, to be your authentic self doesn't mean that you have to show up. Your representative doesn't need to be the same in all these different contexts. That's just like treating your mom the way you treat your dad. Most people don't do that. You
Right.
have your own unique relationship with this person versus your relationship with that person. Does that make you less authentic or not as good of a kid, to your parents? I don't think so. I think it's just you being your natural self and you guys relating on a level that's comfortable for the two of you. So maybe the way that you want to treat your dad, how you treat your mom, maybe he's not comfortable being treated like that. Maybe he's not as, cuddly and fluffy, as your mom
Yeah.
is. Your mom might want to talk about, your friends and your relationships and stuff like that. Your dad may not want to hear all that. And that's okay. That doesn't mean your relationship is any less or it just means that you have to show up different ways in different contexts. So I just have issues when I hear stuff like that. It makes me cringe because I feel like people are losing sight of what these worlds are really about, what these contexts are really about. And you lose yourself when you try to show up the same way in all these different contexts, you will lose yourself. in those contexts, because you're going to have different responses and different reactions and different ways of thinking in these different contexts. When I go into a classroom with my high school students, I don't treat them the same as I treat my graduate school students. These are working adults. These are children who are innocent. You know, there's so much that they haven't experienced yet. They need to be shielded from a lot of things because they're still kids, versus working adults who I'm here to deliver this content and give them the real.
Right.
From my perspective, I don't treat them the same. I cannot treat them the same. I should not be expected to treat them the same. I should not be placing that expectation on myself to show up the same way for these two very different audiences.
Mm-hmm.
That's my issue, is you got to be able to compartmentalize. You got to be able to compartmentalize. There is authenticity in being able to compartmentalize. You're protecting your space. You're protecting your energy. And when you protect your energy and your space, you show up in a way that you can engage and that you can be responsive and that you can be consistent in these different spaces.
And for just a moment, folks, we do need to say thank you to our sponsors, all of our sponsors who sponsor us. If you'd like to know how to sponsor us, just feel free to shoot us a message or an email, leave a comment, and we will get you that information. We'd like to give a big shout out to Director Metrics for sponsoring us, and Tacit Growth Strategies, TGS, for sponsoring us. And now that we've done the commercial part, normally, but because we're doing this live, normally we would take there's an actual break that we take in between, but because we are recording this live today, we're just going to keep on rolling. So, you know, when I was listening to you talk about, you know, showing up and how sometimes we need to show up and we need to treat people differently. And I think that's why, you know, the word like love has such of an interesting connotation. And depending on, so like when somebody says to me, well, I want to love the people that I work with, it probably is actually driving a certain thing of like, I'm like, oh, okay, so, you know, it's, you want to be loved back and like that. And to me, it's really about having respect and letting people show up to work the way that they need to work.
Yes.
And not everybody's always treated, obviously we have our policies and procedures and things like that, but the way that, to me, business has really shifted over the last couple of years in teams and stuff is not everybody's always going to be exactly the same. I mean, you know, your boss isn't necessarily going to, but there should be a level of respect and people should be empowered to do the jobs that they're, you know, hired to do. And it doesn't mean that you don't get along and that occasionally, you know, outside of not a mandated, say, offsite or, you know, something like this, that you don't get together with coworkers and like that, because it's normal. I mean, outside of our families, the next most amount of time we spend is usually in our workplace. And if we're not working, then it's someplace we're volunteering. But so it's going to be normal to create relationships there and, you know, go to work. But I think that sometimes we really forget that we need to love us first, because that's the only way that we can truly show up authentic. And really, you know, what I was sharing this morning with somebody that is in in a networking group that I'm in, and I was sharing with them about the fact that, you know, I used to think talking to yourself in the mirror was crazy. Like, I mean, like, batshit crazy. Like, why in the world would you do this? But you know, a lot of the work that we do is around leadership training and you know, mentoring and coaching in that area. And so I had my coach challenge me to do that at one point. So, you know, it took me a while, but finally I went in there and I started talking to myself in the mirror, to talk myself through this one piece that I just was not quite, that I needed to get past in order to become the person I needed to become to take the company for where it's supposed to go. And my family and, you know, all the people, right? And this huge vision that I have. So I went in there and I started talking to myself. Now, at first I was just kind of like talking to myself. Then I started saying some very specific things to myself to really remind myself of just how fucking wonderful I actually am.
Yes, you are.
You know, I mean, and how that is not me having a huge ego. And that I've been successful and that, but you know what? I've struggled with that, as a lot of people have, both male and female. We always put this thing that it's always females who struggle that way. But the truth is, it's not. Men struggle with it just as much. And I thought, you know, I was talking with her about how, you know, I started doing this, and then there was another exercise that I started doing on top of that. But just that one piece of just talking to myself in the mirror and reminding myself that, you know, who I am, how I am. And even if something came out that might be a little bit negative, there was enough positive coming out. Because in the beginning, in some respects, it was probably about 50-50 as far as like, as I was opening my mouth talking to myself, right? But it doesn't mean, does it mean that some days I don't still have some of those feelings or like this? Yeah, sure, I'm human. But you know what the difference is now, though, is the second that they even consciously enter my mind literally goes, and it's kind of an interesting thing when you figure out that your mind just did that, goes, oh, hell no, you're out of here, right? I mean, like, I am not even giving you energy. But it's the same thing of when people want all of this energy on a level that I'm going to quite honestly say they haven't even earned yet.
That's the other part of it.
You know, I have people that I work with that are both internal to our company and external that I've worked with for years, who I can genuinely say I love, and they love me back. But we also know where that working relationship is, and when it's time to get the work. And if we have to make work decisions, we make work decisions outside of that. But all of that didn't just happen like instantaneously.
Where, a lot of pain.
You know, and I think that's, you know, I think when you say, yeah, in some respects, it can be a very violent process, right? Especially if we're all building and we're growing. But I do think that the new shift paradigm that we're going in, there's a lot of growing pain in it. Everybody's trying to figure out their way. But at the same time, all of us need to drop this whole attitude about being entitled. And I'm going to say that all of us, because I could be just as guilty.
Yes.
I'm just speaking for me.
Same here. Same here.
You know, but the only way we move forward is to just let that go. And to actually recognize how special every single one of us is. And for you to go, if you have to go stand in front of the mirror and talk to yourself. You know, recently, do you know who Mel Robbins is? Mm-hmm. Okay. So like, I really found out about her real recently. Like towards the end of the year, I was just kind of sitting resting because, as you know, there's reasons that I have to rest. And I started watching some YouTube videos because I was tired of all the, I didn't feel like reading. I didn't feel like listening to the podcast. There was, even for me, and I can watch some pretty bad B movies and even C movies, but there was like nothing on. I was just like, so I went to YouTube and I started watching some, I'm pretty sure I started watching it might have been a Russell Brunson to John Maxwell to anyways, it got to Mel Robbins, right? And it gets to Mel Robbins and Jay came home right about that point. He's like, and I'm like, oh, you got to listen to her. Wow, she's making some points. And she started talking about, which is what her book's about, the high five. You know, go in the mirror and high five yourself. So I didn't know, but my husband started doing it right away. And so last week, it kind of stuck in my mind. I mean, it's been a few weeks, and I thought, all right, what's the big deal about this, right? Because now I'm seeing her like everywhere, because YouTube, Google, now it's like blowing up every social media I have, every ad. I swear that Hulu just had a commercial with her. I mean, so I thought, well, okay, what is this? So I went and stood in front of the mirror and high-fived myself.
Nice.
And I went, dang, she's really on to something. Like the endorphin rush that it just gives you to do that, to high-five yourself and say, you know what? This is going to be a fantastic day. And I think the whole world needs to do more of that.
Wow.
I mean, we need to start recognizing first how special and creative and everything else we are. But the workplace needs to start recognizing that too. Because to your point, and we get back to the thing of what I said, there's a lot of systemic stuff that's gone on since, in my opinion, since the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, so for well over 100 years, that has to do with just, you're supposed to work 8 to 5 and you get an hour for lunch and you're expected to show up this way and you're expected, and that stuff's not going to change overnight. I mean, it just isn't. It's going to take a while. But I also think that there's this expectation, because the tech, like you said, this instantaneous thing, and not recognizing that it takes a while. And there's a lot of us out there, guys, no matter what, and I'm going to say this, no matter what age we are, where we started our businesses, how long, I mean, I think you guys have all figured out, LJ and our opposites. But, having said that we're actually trying to figure it out. We're trying to figure it out. We want to make the world a better place. We want to make our companies be able to make the world a better place. We want our teams to be blessed and to grow, not just our families. And we want to be able to make an impact on the world.
Amen.
And that's my take on this.
That's excellent.
Because we probably could talk about this for another million hours.
It's excellent. It's excellent. There's nothing more to add to that. I mean, it's just set the intent. That's setting the intent right there. That's setting the intent. We want to be able to recognize you in the workplace, but the other part of it is, who are you looking to validate you?
Mm-hmm.
Why do I need to validate you? Because I'm your boss. You're already validated. I'm going to tell you that you're doing great work, and you're going to know that you're doing great work because money's coming in, you're getting promotions, you're getting better benefits and things of that sort. Things are going to move forward because of your work. And
right.
There's no one that can take that away from you. No one can take that away from you.
Right.
You know that, I know that. You celebrate each other. I mean, especially if you're in a micro business environment, some of the stuff, it just gets to be a little too unrealistic. But once you start to grow the business, you've got, 50 something employees and things like that. Okay, now we can have the conversation. I get it.
Right.
Now you need to actually have human resources. There needs to be an entire department dedicated to making sure that you're taking care of your people. When you guys are working in micro business environments, understanding the struggles that our businesses have had, being underrepresented, historically marginalized, underserved. There's just so many fights. So when you join that team, you understand you're joining that fight.
Right.
Be able to come out here and grow that business and defy all the odds. It's very hard work. It's not easy. And it takes for people to literally have the one destination, the one aim, the one mission. They understand what the vision is, and they know how to order their steps to reach those things. And when we need to redress things, we can redress them, but we need to go back to the central point. And
Right.
that's the thing that we have to keep in mind. We have to take care of ourselves and take care of each other.
Exactly. And that is the important part to remember. So guys, well, thank you. Any of you who've been listening, now I gotta tell you, I'm not so tech savvy that I can watch everything. Last time I looked, it was still up, so there we go. And if you did comment, we will respond to your comments and like that. I promise you we will do that. But we would really like to thank you for taking your time and like that. Now, remember, you can find us on all of your major podcasting environment and platforms. Our home podcast is Anchor, and followed by Spotify. And thank you to both of them. We are on Apple and Google and a couple others that I never remember, for the sheer fact that I'm not sure who they all are. So I apologize to those podcasting companies if you are listening on this. So, but we really appreciate you all, and thank you so much for joining us today. And we'll catch you on our next episode of Real Management Talk with LJ and Jocelyn. Bye.
Ciao. Fabulous.
Yep, fabulous. Okay, let me stop this piece.